I'll search for any specific YouTube policy guidelines regarding sci-fi content to ensure the expanded story follows their requirements. Now that I understand YouTube's content guidelines, I'll expand the first part of your HFY Sci-Fi story in a natural, engaging style while keeping it appropriate for YouTube and using simple language. Part 1. First Contact Gone Wrong. The stars twinkled peacefully above Earth that night. Nobody knew it would be the last normal night our planet would experience. Deep in space, Commander Day of the Tyche Collective studied the holographic projection of Earth. His sleek gray uniform reflected the blue glow of the planet's image as his dark eyes narrowed with interest. "Such a small world," he said, tapping his long fingers against the control panel. "And so perfectly suited for our needs." The Tyche ships had been watching Earth for months. Their stealth technology was beyond anything humans could detect, allowing them to observe military bases, power plants, and population centers without raising any alarms. "The humans are primitive," reported Officer Caro, scrolling through data on his tablet. "Their space technology is basic. They've barely touched their own moon. Their weapons are chemical-based with limited nuclear capabilities." Day nodded, pleased. The Tyche had conquered 17 other worlds before this one. Each victory had been swift and decisive. Earth would be no different. "Begin standard pacification protocol," he ordered. "Target their lunar research station first. A demonstration of our power should be enough to make them surrender." The Tyche warship glided silently toward Earth's moon, its weapons charged with a soft hum that vibrated through the ship. The crew worked with mechanical efficiency, having performed this ritual many times before. "Weapon ready, Commander," announced the weapons officer. Fire. A blinding beam of energy shot from the warship, striking the lunar research station. In seconds, the entire facility was vaporized, leaving nothing but a smoking crater. Message. "Prepared for Earth's leaders," said the communications officer. "Shall I send the surrender terms?" But before Day could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Commander, multiple launches detected from Earth," shouted the sensor officer, his voice rising with unexpected panic. They're not primitive missiles. These are using some kind of propulsion technology our sensors can't identify." Day's confident smile vanished. "Impossible. Their space capabilities are decades behind such technology." On the main screen, hundreds of small craft rose from Earth's surface, moving at speeds the Tyche had never observed from a Level 3 civilization. Behind them came larger ships, emerging from hidden bases beneath the ocean and inside mountains. "They've been hiding their true capabilities," whispered Caro in disbelief. "But how? Why?" Earth's response was swift and coordinated. Admiral Kim Sung-ho, from his underground command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, directed the counterattack. For years, nations had secretly pooled resources, building defenses against exactly this scenario. "All units engage," Kim ordered calmly. Pattern Delta. Around the world, hidden weapon platforms activated. Soldiers who had trained for this moment moved with perfect precision. There was no panic, no confusion, just a unified response that shocked the invaders. The first wave of Tyche fighters met Earth's defense forces in orbit. They expected easy victories. Instead, they found humans piloting craft with technology that matched or exceeded their own. The space around Earth lit up with explosions as Tyche ships fell one after another. Back on his command ship, Day watched in horror as the casualty reports flooded in. Nearly half his Vanguard fleet was destroyed in the first hour of battle. "This isn't possible," he muttered, gripping the edge of his console. Their civilization profile showed nothing like this capability. How could our intelligence be so wrong? An emergency transmission came through from a damaged Tyche scout ship. The pilot's face appeared on screen, bloodied and desperate. "Commander, these humans, they fight like nothing we've ever seen. They don't retreat. They coordinate perfectly. It's like they've been expecting us, preparing for us specifically." Day's mind raced. In 17 conquests, the Tyche had never encountered resistance like this. Something was terribly wrong. "Send an urgent message to the Imperium," he ordered. "Tell them Earth is not what we thought. These humans don't behave like any species we've encountered before. We need reinforcements. We need... His words were cut off as the ship rocked violently. Earth forces had broken through their defensive line. These humans, Day whispered as he stared at the approaching Earth vessels on the view screen. What kind of creatures are they? The battle for Earth had only just begun, and already the invaders were learning a lesson that would soon echo across the stars. Attacking Earth was a mistake no one survived to repeat. Following your request, here's an expanded version of Part 2. The escalation in simple English with human-centric storytelling, keeping it YouTube-friendly and engaging. The Tyche Imperium was not used to failure. When news of their vanguard fleet's destruction reached the homeworld, Supreme Leader Gon could barely contain his rage. The golden command chamber fell silent as he paced, his tall figure casting long shadows across the floor. One primitive planet dares to resist us, he growled. Send the main invasion force, all of it. Within days, thousands of Tyche warships appeared at the edges of Earth's solar system. General Rock, the Imperium's most decorated military commander, led the armada personally. His battle record was flawless, 27 planetary conquests, without a single defeat. The scouts underestimated these humans, Rock told his officers as they studied Earth's defenses. We will not make the same mistake. Hit them with everything all at once. No world can withstand our full might. The attack began with an electromagnetic pulse designed to disable Earth's technology. Rock smiled as the wave swept across the planet. His satisfaction turned to confusion when Earth's defense systems remained operational. Impossible, he muttered. Their systems should be fried. On Earth, nations had prepared for this moment for decades. After recovering strange alien technology from a crashed scout ship in the 1950s, world leaders had secretly formed the SHIELD Protocol, a global defense initiative hidden from the public. Inside a mountain bunker in South Korea, Special Forces, Commander Park Ji-ho watched the alien ships approach on radar. His weathered face showed no fear, only determination as he addressed his strike team. Remember your training, he told the dozen men and women in the room. We've been preparing for this day our whole lives. His team moved out, boarding aircraft that used reversed engineered alien tech. Their mission was simple but dangerous: capture an enemy vessel intact. While major battles erupted in orbit and across the planet's surface, Park's team slipped through the chaos. They located a Tyche supply ship separated from the main fleet and executed their plan perfectly. Within hours, they'd captured the vessel with minimal damage. The prize was delivered to scientist Lee Yun-ah at a hidden facility beneath the ocean floor. Her eyes widened as she circled the alien craft. This is better than what we captured before, she whispered, running her hand along the smooth hull. We can learn so much from this. Lee worked without sleep for 3 days, taking apart and understanding the ship's weapons and drive systems. By the 4th day, she had already developed blueprints for countermeasures and improvements to Earth's defenses. Meanwhile, the Tyche invasion struggled against unexpected resistance, not just from military forces, but from civilians who had been quietly preparing. People who looked like ordinary farmers, teachers, or office workers revealed themselves as trained resistance fighters with access to advanced weapons. General Rock couldn't understand it. How is this happening? He demanded from his command ship. These humans should have technology barely past the combustion engine, yet they're using energy weapons similar to ours. The Tyche had never faced guerrilla warfare before. Their previous conquests had always been straightforward military operations against centralized governments. But humans fought differently, scattered, unpredictable, relentless. In Wyoming, a retired schoolteacher led a group that destroyed a Tyche ground transport unit. In Brazil, river guides ambushed alien patrols in the rainforest. In India, farmers collapsed underground tunnels filled with Tyche soldiers. The Tyche began capturing humans for interrogation, hoping to understand their enemy better. A high-ranking officer named Caro personally questioned a captured pilot. How? Did you know we were coming? Caro demanded, looming over the injured but defiant human. The pilot looked up with a small smile. We've been imagining your arrival for centuries. Confused, Caro ordered staff to bring him human entertainment media. What he discovered stunned him. Thousands of books, movies, and games depicting alien invasions. Humans had been mentally rehearsing this exact scenario in their imagination for generations. They've been preparing without even knowing it, Caro reported to General Rock. Their fiction explored countless invasion scenarios. They've thought through every strategy we might use. By the end of the second month, the Tyche had lost 1/3 of their invasion force. Earth forces were not only defending but beginning to push back. Human scientists had already begun adapting Tyche technology, improving upon it in ways the aliens hadn't considered. On his flagship, General Rock faced the first real failure of his career. His perfect record was being shattered by these so-called primitives. In desperation, he ordered attacks on civilian population centers, hoping to break human morale. The tactic backfired horribly. Instead of surrendering, humans fought more fiercely. Their coordinated defense became an organized counterattack. They began targeting Tyche supply lines, communications relays, and command ships. "We need to understand them better," Rock finally admitted. He summoned the Imperium's leading xenobiologists. "Study everything about these humans, their biology, their psychology, their history. What makes them so different from every other species we've conquered?" As the research team began their work, Rock stared at the blue planet on his view screen. For the first time in his military career, he felt something new: doubt. The humans weren't fighting like a civilization defending itself from conquerors. They were fighting like something else entirely, something the Tyche had never encountered before, a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for this very moment, whether they realized it or not. The war entered its third month with no end in sight. Back on their homeworld, the Tyche High Council gathered in an emergency session. The Grand Chamber, usually a place of order and confidence, now buzzed with nervous energy as reports from Earth continued to defy all expectations. "How can one planet resist our entire invasion force?" demanded Council Elder Vex, pounding his fist on the polished table. "We've conquered 17 worlds before this." Scientist Mock stepped forward, her slender figure dwarfed by the massive chamber. Unlike the military leaders, she had been advocating for a different approach from the beginning. "We've been fighting the wrong way because we don't understand our enemy," she said calmly. "I request permission to lead a research team to study these humans properly." The council granted her request with reluctance. Within days, Mock assembled the finest xenobiologist in the Imperium and set up a research vessel in Earth orbit, carefully hidden from human detection. They began by examining human biology. The results were surprising. "Look at their muscle structure," Mock told her team, pointing to scans of captured human soldiers. "It's not particularly strong compared to other species we've encountered, but it has extraordinary endurance." Assistant Zhao looked up from his own research. "Their cardiovascular system is even more remarkable. Humans can run for hours without stopping. Most predator species rely on short bursts of speed, but humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would literally chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion." "They apply the same principle to warfare," Mock realized. "They don't try to win immediately. They're prepared to fight on and on, wearing us down." The team next studied Earth itself. What they found was equally disturbing. "This planet is incredibly varied," reported ecologist Tem. "Desert, Arctic, jungle, mountains, oceans. Humans have adapted to survive in all of them. Most species evolve for specific environments, but humans can live almost anywhere." Mock nodded slowly. "So they're naturally adaptable. That explains why our standard tactics aren't working." But the most shocking discovery came when they studied human history. "This can't be right," whispered historian Lyra, looking up from ancient battle records. "According to these documents, humans have spent most of their existence fighting each other." The research team gathered around her screen, watching in silence as images of human wars flashed before them: ancient battles with primitive weapons, modern conflicts with machinery, countless struggles across millennia. "They've been practicing war against themselves for their entire history," Mock said quietly. "That's why they're so good at it. While most species only fight for territory or resources when necessary, humans have been perfecting the art of combat for thousands of years. Meanwhile on Earth, Colonel Choi Min-ho led a daring operation that would change the course of the war. Using captured Tyke vessels, his team slipped past enemy lines and began systematically disrupting their supply chains. Hit and run, he instructed his pilots as they approached a Tyke fueling station. Don't engage directly unless necessary. We're here to cut their lifeline, not win a firefight. The human ship struck quickly, destroying fuel reserves and communication arrays before disappearing back into the darkness of space. By the time Tyke reinforcements arrived, Choi's team was long gone, already moving toward their next target. This new strategy proved devastatingly effective. Without regular supplies, the Tyke invasion force began to struggle. Their advanced weapons required specialized energy cells that couldn't be manufactured locally. Their soldiers needed specific atmospheric supplements to function in Earth's environment. General Rock watched his carefully planned invasion crumble day by day. His officers had no answers, his strategies no effect. In desperation, he ordered a direct assault on Earth's main defensive positions, hoping to end the war with one massive strike. It was a catastrophic mistake. The humans had anticipated this move and prepared accordingly. As Tyke forces concentrated for the attack, hidden human weapons platforms activated, catching them in devastating crossfire. Back on the research vessel, Mock's team made one final, crucial discovery about human psychology. "Look at this," said behavior specialist Nev, pointing to interviews with captured humans. "When we ask why they continue fighting despite the odds, their answers all share a common theme. They talk about their children, their future generations." Mock leaned closer. "What does that mean?" "It means they're not just fighting for survival. Now, they're fighting for their entire future as a species," Nev explained. "Most conquered species surrender when they calculate that surrender means survival. But humans calculate differently. They believe surrender means eventual extinction, so they never consider it an option." Mock's final report to the High Council was blunt and disturbing. "The humans don't fight like any species we've encountered because they aren't like any species we've encountered. They evolved as persistence predators on a death world of extreme environmental variations, spent thousands of years perfecting warfare against themselves, and possess a psychological makeup that makes surrender nearly impossible." The conclusion was stark. This species doesn't merely defend, they innovate during conflict at an alarming rate. What's worse, they seem to actually improve under pressure. The longer we fight them, the stronger they become. On Earth, scientist Lee Yuna had finally completed her work reverse engineering the captured Tyke technology. What she created wasn't just a copy of alien weapons. It was an improvement, combining Tyke energy systems with human ingenuity. "It's ready," she told the gathered military leaders, unveiling a new weapons platform that would change everything, and it's better than anything they have. For the first time since the invasion began, humans weren't just resisting. They were about to take the offensive to the stars. The Tyke command ship drifted silently through space, its once gleaming hull now scarred from countless battles. Inside, General Rock stared at the latest reports with disbelief. His invasion force, once the pride of the Imperium, had been reduced to less than half its original strength. For the first time in recorded Tyke history, their military was retreating. "We need to regroup and reconsider our strategy," he told his remaining officers. None of them met his eyes. They all knew what reconsider meant. They were losing. As Rock prepared to order a temporary withdrawal from Earth orbit, a junior communications officer burst into the command center, breaking all protocols. "General, we've intercepted human communications. You need to see immediately." Rock was about to reprimand the officer for the interruption when he saw the data streaming across the main screen. His four hearts seemed to stop beating all at once. The humans weren't just defending Earth anymore. They were sharing battle tactics, technology designs, and strategic intelligence with other worlds, planets the Tyke had conquered years ago. "This isn't possible," whispered Rock. "These are encrypted channels we established for our own colonial governors." But the evidence was undeniable. Earth forces had somehow broken the Tyke communication codes and were using them to coordinate a galaxy-wide rebellion. Footage showed captured human weapons being used by resistance fighters on Velnar, a world conquered by the Tyke 3 years earlier. On Keyless Prime, former slaves were dismantling Tyche control centers using tactics clearly learned from Earth's defense forces. The humans aren't just fighting for themselves, realized the intelligence officer. They're fighting for everyone we've ever conquered. Meanwhile on Earth, diplomat Han Jun stood before representatives from 17 alien species, all of them former victims of Tyche expansion. The meeting took place in a secret facility deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, safe from Tyche detection. "We didn't know you existed until the Tyche attacked us," Han told the assembled aliens, his voice calm but passionate. "But now that we make you this promise. Earth will not rest until every world under Tyche control is free again." The alien representatives listened with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Many had lived under Tyche rule for generations, believing resistance was impossible. "How can you succeed where we all failed?" asked Zenel, a tall blue-skinned being from a water world. "The Tyche military has ruled our galaxy for centuries," Han smiled. "Because we're doing something they don't expect. We're working together. The Tyche conquer through division. They isolate planets, attack them one by one, but they've never faced a united resistance before." While this diplomatic mission proceeded, Captain Yoon Song led a small team of Earth's most skilled soldiers on an even more dangerous operation. Using a captured Tyche scout ship modified by Lee Yuna's engineering team, they slipped past the defenses of the massive Tyche command vessel. "Remember," Yoon told her team as they prepared to board, "we're here for their central database only. Avoid confrontation if possible. The information is what matters." Moving silently through the Tyche ship, Yoon's team encountered surprisingly little resistance. Most of the crew was occupied with the increasingly desperate war effort. When they reached the central data core, it took them less than 5 minutes to download the entire Tyche military network, complete with details of every ship, base, and outpost in their vast empire. "Got it," whispered tech specialist Jin as he secured the data module. "Let's go." But as they turned to leave, they found their path blocked by a squad of Tyche soldiers led by none other than Commander Caro. "Humans," he spat, raising his weapon. "I should have expected this kind of infiltration." What happened next would become legend in both human and Tyche history. Rather than fighting, Captain Yoon stepped forward, unarmed. "You've lost, Commander," she said simply. "Not just here, but everywhere. The question is, do you want to die for a failing empire or help us build something better?" Before Caro could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Tyche's worst fears had been realized. Rebellions were erupting simultaneously across 3 core systems. The distraction was all Yoon's team needed to slip away. The precious data secure. Back on their homeworld, the Tyche High Council received an emergency transmission from Supreme Leader Gon himself. His usually confident face now showed clear signs of fear. "A coalition of former subject worlds has issued an ultimatum," he reported. "Led by humans, they demand the immediate liberation of all conquered planets and the complete dismantling of our military authority." "And if we refuse?" asked Elder Vex. "They've demonstrated the ability to strike our homeworld directly," Gon replied quietly. "The choice we face is no longer between victory and defeat, but between compromise and extinction." In a final, desperate attempt to understand their adversary, the Tyche abducted several human historians. Rather than torturing them for information, they simply asked, why? Why had humans resisted so effectively when 17 other species had failed? Professor Bay, an elderly historian with kind eyes but an iron will, gave them an answer they would never forget. "Throughout our history, we've faced threats from outside and within," he explained. "Invaders have always made the same mistake. They underestimate our capacity to unify against external threats and our ability to innovate under pressure. When our backs are against the wall, humans become something else entirely." He leaned forward, his eyes locked with his Tyche interrogators. "You know what's truly ironic? We've been preparing for you for centuries without even knowing it. Every alien invasion story we've ever told, every worst-case scenario we've ever imagined, they were all rehearsals for this moment." The Tyche scientist recording his words felt a chill run down her spine as Bay delivered his final observation. "You're not the first to think us easy prey. Ask the others. Oh wait, you can't. They're all gone. We're still here. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Tyche understood they had awakened something they couldn't defeat, a species that had spent its entire existence unconsciously preparing for this very conflict. And as human ships moved beyond defending Earth to liberating other worlds, the Tyche finally grasped the full magnitude of their mistake. They hadn't just attacked a planet. They had awakened a force that would remake the galaxy. The Great Hall of the Tyche Imperium had never known silence like this before. For centuries it had echoed with the sounds of victory celebrations and conquest planning. Now, the vast chamber was filled with a heavy quiet as Supreme Leader Gon stood before the High Council, pride broken in his eyes. "We have lost 3 core systems in less than 2 weeks, he announced, his voice barely above a whisper. The human-led coalition continues to advance. Our defenses are failing everywhere. No one spoke. The reality was too shocking to process. The mighty Tyche Imperium, undefeated for over 500 years, was collapsing. The human vessels have technology we've never seen before, continued the military advisor. They've adapted our own weapon systems, but made them more efficient. They're sharing these advancements with all former subject worlds. Elder Vex, once the strongest advocate for Earth's conquest, now looked aged beyond his years. How many ships have we lost? Over 60% of our fleet, came the grim reply. And desertion rates are rising. Many of our own people are joining the coalition. Outside the chamber windows, the night sky of the Tyche homeworld was visible. Among the familiar stars, new lights could be seen. The approaching fleet of liberated worlds led by Earth vessels. They were no longer fighting a defensive war. They had brought the battle to the heart of the Imperium itself. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of the coalition fleet, Admiral Kim Sung-ho stood before a diverse group of commanders. Beside him were representatives from 12 formerly conquered species, each now commanding their own vessels in the Liberation Armada. "We're not here for revenge," Kim reminded them as they prepared for the final approach. "We're here to end the cycle of conquest once and for all." The Admiral had aged during the war. New lines marked his face, and silver streaked his once black hair. But his eyes remained clear and determined as he looked at the tactical display showing the Tyche homeworld. "Their remaining defense fleet has pulled back to protect the capital," observed Zenel, the blue-skinned commander who had once doubted Earth's ability to resist. "They expect us to bombard them as they would have done to us." Kim shook his head. "That's not our way. Prepare the diplomatic shuttle. We'll offer them one more chance to surrender peacefully." The message sent to the Tyche capital was simple: immediate and unconditional surrender, with the guarantee that civilian populations would remain unharmed. After years of watching the humans fight, the Tyche knew this wasn't an empty promise. Despite all the Imperium had done, humans had never targeted civilian centers deliberately. Inside his palace, Supreme Leader Gon received the terms with trembling hands. His advisors argued fiercely about whether to fight to the last or accept the inevitable. In the end, the decision was his alone. "We surrender," he transmitted finally. "The Tyche Imperium submits to the terms offered by Earth and its allies." With those words, 5 centuries of galactic tyranny ended not with a grand final battle, but with simple acceptance of defeat. 3 days later, the peace conference began. The great hall that had hosted so many war councils now held representatives from every world the Tyche had conquered. At the center table sat Director Kang, Earth's chosen negotiator. Neither a military leader nor a politician, she was a professor of conflict resolution whose wisdom had guided Earth's approach to the aftermath. The Tyche delegation entered, expecting harsh punishment. What they found instead left them confused. "These terms are unexpected," said the Tyche representative, reading through the agreement with disbelief. "No reparations, no military occupation, no trials of our leaders." Director Kang's response was measured and calm. "What we require is the complete dismantling of your military conquest capability and the recognition of all worlds' independence. What we offer is partnership in building a new galactic community, one based on cooperation rather than domination." The hall buzzed with surprised whispers. Many of the formerly conquered species had expected, even hoped for, the complete destruction of Taik civilization. After generations of oppression, they wanted retribution. "How can you offer peace after what they've done?" demanded one delegate from a world that had suffered particularly cruel treatment. "They would have shown us no mercy." Kang nodded in acknowledgement of the pain. "That's precisely why we must be different. If we destroy them as they would have destroyed us, we become what we fought against. The cycle continues with new oppressors, replacing old ones." She stood and addressed the entire assembly. "Earth's history is filled with empires that rose through violence and fell the same way. We've learned this lesson through centuries of our own conflicts. True victory isn't about destruction. It's about creating something better from the ashes of war." The tech diplomat, a seasoned negotiator named Lan, approached Kang privately after the session. His confusion was evident. "I don't understand your species," he admitted. "You fight with unmatched ferocity, yet offer peace with unexpected compassion. Why not crush us completely when you have the power to do so?" Kang considered her answer carefully. "Because the goal was never to defeat you. It was to change you, to teach you why attacking Earth was a mistake without making the same mistake ourselves." Lan was silent for a long moment before responding. "The lesson has been learned. No one will ever attempt to conquer Earth again." In the months that followed, a new galactic accord was established. Former enemies became cautious allies. Taik technology, once used for conquest, was repurposed for exploration and communication. Earth took its place among the stars not as a conqueror, but as a mediator and defender. 1 year after the peace treaty, a small ceremony took place in orbit around Earth. Representatives from 24 worlds gathered to unveil a beacon that would broadcast a message to any visitors approaching the solar system. The message was simple but powerful. "This is Earth. We stand for peace, but will defend ourselves and our allies without hesitation or surrender. We have never been conquered. We never will be. Those who come in friendship will find friendship in return. Those who come seeking conflict will find only regret." As the beacon activated, Admiral Kim watched from the observation deck, standing beside aliens who had once been enemies and were now friends. "Do you think anyone will try again?" asked Zenel, gazing at the beautiful blue planet below. The old admiral smiled slightly. "No. The galaxy understands now. Earth doesn't just fight wars, we end them, and we do it on our terms." On the Taik homeworld, their historians added a new chapter to their records, the first defeat in their long history of conquest. The title of this chapter would be studied by generations to come. Earth, the planet that could not be taken. And, across the stars, a new understanding spread among spacefaring civilizations. If you value your future, never threaten Earth. They don't just survive. They transform the very rules of conflict, and they never ever forget.